Hey everybody, I got Keith Twitchell here with me from Octorocket slash Digital Concierge. Thanks for checking in and listening to the AutoFix TechnologyCast, where we talk about all things technology related that we use in our shop. How are you doing, Keith? I know we had some technical difficulty, but here we are.
Technology happens. Thank you, Chris, for having me on. Yeah, it's funny that we all have, nobody's immune, right? All of us.
Right.
Yeah, I'm great. Technology is our wheelhouse. So this is going to be an exciting conversation.
But here's the thing, I almost missed the other background though.
What do you mean by that? Sorry.
The Octorocket background with the octopus and the purple and everything.
Oh,
So
yeah. So
if you haven't seen that, then most people don't know what I'm talking about. But
so Chris and I have been on multiple video calls, but those are always like work related where it's not a podcast. And so I couldn't bring we do these fun rocket ships with octopus on other planets, and I use those as backgrounds, and our whole team thinks it's cool. It's probably super distracting to the guest, but yeah.
Actually, I think it's better because now I'm trying to be like, okay, we got lightsabers, we got this other light in the back, and then we've got like a white pill clock behind you that probably is a sound bar and everything else. So now I'm trying to figure out what everything else you've got going on in the
It's
background.
all superhero centric, comic book centric. We all have other lives. We don't. It's good to reset when you walk out of the shop, right, and do things that aren't, as much as I love things that go fast and things that have wheels and things that hover or whatever, right? Like so that's all my Disney Marvel stuff.
There you go. Okay. I've like Disney, but I've never been much with the Marvel. So
yeah.
some of it's probably lost on me. But the funny thing is like you said, most people think that shop owners, like I got on a podcast not too long ago and the guy wanted to talk about cars and going fast. And that's just like completely over my head. Like I have zero desire in that whatsoever, which is completely opposite of somebody that's usually in our industry. But
there's a working on the business versus working in the business, right? And if you're a shop owner, sometimes you have to step out of that boots on the ground role and kind of get into a different headspace.
Right. And so last thing, and I promise we'll start. Are you into watches at all?
I have wait a second. All right. So you can edit this later, right? If my wife is listening, you can cut this next part out.
You don't have any watches at all. And no, it's okay. Yeah.
I might have a problem. Allegedly. Yeah. A little bit.
So, I'll say, I may have lied. This may just be about you and me talking watches the rest of the podcast. Maybe we should start that. When I see your other background, it makes me think of the new, like the new swatches with the Omega and everything.
Yeah,
I think you need to do a purple Omega swatch as a company thing, and then make sure you send me one whenever you do those.
That's a great idea. I allegedly might have a couple of those. You may have touched on, one of which I had to travel to a specific store because you can only get those. Not all of them are available online. So yeah, and for those of
you have to go to the store. Yeah.
Swatch owns Omega. It sounds backwards, right? But that's the way it happened. And they did a collaboration, I guess you'd say, for the higher end Omega brand, but it brings people into the Swatch brand, and so you got this kind of nice mashup. And but I don't know at all what you're talking about, Chris. That's
right. Nothing. Well, that's like so I think it's common knowledge at this point. So in the last 18 months, I went back to school and completed my bachelor's degree. I graduate in 37 days, and I may or may not have a Panerai in my closet boxed up and ready to go for graduation day.
And by the way, congratulations. I hope you make something of yourself out there.
Thank you. Yeah. when I grow up, that was one of those, it's a completely selfless thing, or maybe selfish thing. I just wanted to check that box off, and my daughter graduates from college the day before I do. So we're going to be busy. We're going to have to go to her graduation and then go up to mine because I'm actually going to walk the stage and do it like I should have done it 30 something years ago. So,
That would be an interesting long form. I would pay to see this. I would pay to sit in on this. What was the turning point in your life that show, because you've made a series of decisions, right?
yep,
That you basically said there are directions that I want to go, that
right.
I want to make some changes. And all of us get in this rut of I'm kind of trapped, right? I can't change these other. If I do this, then I'm scared, right, or whatever the reason is. And so that would be a fascinating talk. I would sit in on. When's your next when's your next, let's do this at a conference. Let's.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, you let me know what conference you want to go to, we'll go. And if we can fill a room and just sit and talk about it. You can interview me or whatever, or we can figure it out. It's very interesting. I've talked a little bit about it on the other podcast, the Weekly Blitz, but it's one of those things that I. Long story short, I have a short attention span. I was bored in college, read all the wrong books because I spent all the time in the library reading stuff about ancient Rome and the Greeks and German history and those things, and not studying any of the stuff that they wanted me to check the boxes off of, and just got bored and left. And that's how I got in the industry, because I answered an ad as a service advisor in a good year for $6.50 an hour. If you people can realize that, like, a lot of people, the young people now are like, oh my gosh, you did what?
What? Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Working 6 days a week, every Saturday, 7 to 7, Monday through Friday, and just left. And really, all through life is like, I don't really need that. And so, really, it just became about. Um, I'm not going to promise I'm not going to cry, but whatever.
That's great content.
Right, yeah. It became more about, I wanted my daughter to come from a home that had parents that both had bachelor's degrees, and Kimberly got hers way back in the 90s, when she should have. And I've made it in life without it. And honestly, it was ridiculous. Oh man, this is something I've never thought of. I wonder how many watches I could have bought with all the tuition I just paid for school, because I did 50 hours in 18 months, and
Right.
that was a pretty expensive task. I obviously don't need it for career advancement at this point, but whatever else. Anyway, we should probably get into it. But
Yeah. But there you go. There's your next podcast channel, right?
right,
Like, this is a great, yeah. I could go for hours.
yeah, it's pretty fast, and I like to talk to other people from that too. I thought I was going to be the first person in my family to graduate from college, in my direct line through my dad, but it's going to be my daughter by a day.
Yeah, but that's such a great story.
Yeah,
It's, yeah, that you guys will always have.
yeah. So we will both be graduates of 2025. So with our bachelors. But anyway, so we have Keith here, Octorocket, Digital Concierge. I think most people know that I use Octorocket, but we just got started with Digital Concierge a couple of weeks ago. So far, love it, love Octorocket. But why don't you tell us your thoughts on Octorocket, maybe how it started, what you saw as the niche you were trying to fill, and then we'll just keep going from there.
Yeah, sure. So there's a concept in play here that you already actually put out there, which is that missed opportunity has a cost or a financial impact that goes along with it, right? Whether that's, hey, I was dormant for 10 years of my life and didn't maybe take the steps and go through the things that I had dreams to do, or whether it's, I run an automotive shop and I'm missing phone calls, or I don't really know. We're just repairing the things that the customers ask us to do. We're not doing inspections, and there's a financial impact to everyone involved in that, right? And so we're actually two companies that became one in January. Interestingly enough, both started separately but with kind of the similar concepts and motivation, which was to take that that quality assurance and ratchet it up, or to just shine a spotlight on it and help shop owners specifically, because that's our target customer is the shop owner, is help them run their business, help them understand what they need to pay attention to, and where the fuel leaks are, if you want to call it that, right? Where the gaps are. And so I always go back to the gym analogy. And Chris, you've heard this before, and I'm sorry, this is like probably the third or fourth time you've heard it. But you know, we see the commercials. You want to get stronger. You want to, whatever. You want to get faster. We've taken that to the point of being able to dial it in to the minimal amount of work. You still have to do the work, right? And I guess maybe the current analogy, if you want to use the automotive world, is self-driving cars. Like I am a huge fan of what Lexus does with they call it a co-pilot. That's the way they reference their assisted driving in all their marketing, right? Versus some of the other ones out there that call it self-driving or, autopilot or what have you. And that almost implies you don't have to do anything, right? Versus we're going to help you. We're going to pick up on the things that you maybe are missing or that you aren't aware of, right? And just call those to your attention. So that's kind of our mindset, right? In terms of how we use the tools, the technology, the AI, it's all to help augment what's already there.
And again, I'm fascinated by it. And I'm prepared for you to scold me because I'm sure, like most things, shop owners don't use things to their full potential, right? Like I'm sure Octorocket does so many more things that I don't use it for. But I love the fact that I can go in there, I can look at it, my store manager can look at it. We can see our projections for the month. And of course, I've gone in, I've set the goals. The goals are in there. Everybody knows where we're going. But I like to go in there every day because I like to see the numbers and be like, okay, where are we at? What's the projection? And then I like to do it first without the whip in there. And then I like to do the whip because it gives me that little boost.
Yeah.
And for those of you that don't know what the whip is, it's a work in progress. So those are the things that are sold that are sitting there that we just need to finish. But then I also love, I just drew a blank, the little button up there that tells me when I'm going to start making money.
Yeah, that's our overhead projection.
The overhead projection,
running overhead. Yeah. So I mentioned that it was two companies. So on the analytics side, which was originally Octorocket, that's, if you think of that, it's the back end. For those of you guys that are watching and listening that don't know, that is the inside of house, back end of shop operations tool set. That's Chris is talking about. So it's going to help you do things like look at we do projections with the ticket data that we have. Chris can look at his calendar. It's in a calendar view and see what day of the month his shop is going to break even and what day he'll be profitable. And those projections are sometimes scary accurate down to the day of here's based on the current trend. So lots of focus on things like back to the inspections, right? It's amazing to me the concept that you either get it or you don't as a shop. If we don't ask for the work, how can we expect to get the work?
Right.
And a lot of owners and a lot of you guys listen to this are seasoned veterans, and you know that, right? But then you have some of your techs doing the inspections that don't get it. Oh, well, they just told me they needed a brake job, right? But the water pump's leaking. Did you bring that up, right? And so that literally can be the difference in that mindset over the course of a month of that shop breaking even or being profitable. Just pointing out to the customer that these things could need your attention and giving them the opportunity. They can say no, right? And then, of course, that's in the advisor's hands to have that discussion. But that's kind of, so on our analytics tool, that's what we're all about, is finding those opportunities and drawing attention to the ones that are being missed.
Right. Well, knowledge is power, right? Like, so as an owner, if I know, and two, I shouldn't be shocked by it, but this is like the Octorocket voodoo, right? So I can look at the projection for the month. I can look at the projection for the year, which is really good because it just shows me that what I thought this shop was capable of, we are capable of it, because we're trending closer to that, and we're not even in summer yet. So we should be really, really good. But if you're a shop owner and you're looking at that and I talk about being pissed off for greatness sometimes. If you don't like the fact that you're outrunning your overhead on the 23rd, 24th, 25th, 30th of the month, and you want to be outrunning your overhead by the 15th or whenever, then you can look at it and be, as long as you've inputted everything correctly, you can be like, okay, what else do I need to do to make that happen?
Yeah, and I think the biggest objection, at least that I hear, I talk to a lot of shop owners. That's part of my job, right? Is you're trapped in this. People listening to this that are in on that ledge of, but I lost a tech a couple weeks ago. I've got to go do some of it myself. I'm turning wrenches. Right? I don't have the time. But I would counter that with we give you factual data that shows you with you, here's what it's costing you to not fill that bay, or here's what it's costing you if you've got that lift sitting there not being used, right? And
Right.
having those definitive answers, it's sort of the unknown of, well, I'm just frozen in fear. Like, this goes back to kind of how you opened this, Chris. Like, you made some life decisions and said, I'm going to do some things that are important to me. And but you have to have the somewhat of the safety net to minimize that risk, right?
Right.
And that's kind of what we do is, okay, if you do this, here are the projections. Even if you get to 80% of that, you're probably going to be better off than you are doing nothing.
Right. And to take that knowledge is power thing into what you were talking about a minute ago about doing the inspections and letting customers know, knowledge is power for your customers too. They can make informed decisions on, do I sell this car? Do I keep it?
Yep.
What am I going to have? We had a conversation earlier today. Joey, we promoted him to the counter, and customer walked in. He's like, hey, I need 100,000 mile service. So Joey was looking it up, and he built a ticket for the 100,000 mile service and told him, hey, we're also going to inspect the car. Well, the 100K with everything we were doing was like $2,400, but then it also needed pads and rotors front and back and about another $1,500 worth of stuff. And he's like, ooh, what do I do? I'm like, you estimate it, you present it, and as long as the customer knows about it, it doesn't matter if they buy it or not. In a perfect world, I'd want them to buy it, but they don't have to. But the fact is we need them to have that knowledge so that 2 months from now, when they bring it back for something small, and then we're like, oh, it needs brakes front and rear and whatever. And then they're like, then they call our integrity into question
Sure.
because they're like, oh, well, why didn't you see this last time or whatever?
Yeah. And, again, preaching to the choir here, right? But don't assume that just because that car is potentially going to be sold, that that they're done with.
Yeah.
This is a lifetime relationship, right?
Right.
And so it's always that integrity. I've gone through, you guys, that I'll be your example. I've gone through. I've taken my wife's car into shops where I know there are problems, and I just want to see if they find them.
Right.
I'm expecting to have them fixed. I'm just new location, moved into town, whatever. I need to find somebody that I trust. Well, the first step in that is just give them the car and see what they say.
Right. Well, and back to that, or on that still, like when our daughter first started college, I was trying to find a place for her to go. She's 16 hours away from us, so it's not like I can't really manage her repair.
Yep.
But so we took it to a place that they use Techmetric. They should have had a great DVI. I gave them a list of things that I knew was wrong with it and said, hey, can you look into these things? And can you also change the air filter while we have it? She goes in, she's waiting on it. 45 minutes later, she texts me and she says, okay, I'm done. I'm like, wait, what do you mean you're done? And she's like, yeah, they said everything's good with the car. I'm like, I know for a fact that there are things that are not good on that vehicle. And so I remembered that I had somebody in one of my classes. She goes to school in San Marcos, Texas. I remember that I had somebody in one of my classes that was in Buda or Kyle to the north, which is not really convenient for her. But I called them up and was like, hey, I need somebody to look at her car. And they went and looked at it, and they did a beautiful DVI, sent me an estimate for like $4,800. Oh, and the other place, they just tapped the air filter out, took a picture of the dirty air filter and put it back and said she didn't need it, by the way, which pisses me off to no end. I hate that.
Yeah. Well,
If
dad, number one, dads. Yeah. Right. And then your automotive knowledge in that space. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, if you have to bang it on something to get all the dirt out of it to put it back in, then it probably doesn't need to be.
Right.
Yeah, yeah. But anyway, so they took it, they did the DVI, they sent it back to me, and I approved all of it. So the case in point of that is the one shop could have had almost a $5,000 ticket, and they didn't follow up on any of it. They just basically let the whole thing go. And then the other shop gave me a great DVI. They found some things that I didn't know about, and I'm like, sure, I want this car taken care of and knock it out.
We have started putting analytics. So we're numbers nerds,
Right,
and knowledge is power, right? So we've started putting that analytics mind of ours at Octorocket into dollar amounts, attaching numbers to missed opportunity.
right,
And one of my kind of favorite things to do is to sit down with the shop because it's helpful and show them, to train that analytics tool on some of their existing work, and just say, do you realize that, just over the past week, you're looking at a potential, $15,000 in missed opportunity. And, I would be remiss if I didn't mention the other side of our business as we came together was on because you already referenced this, how we interact with the customers, right? So how
right,
are that same analytical mindset is helping the advisors, reviewing the conversations with the customers, whether that's campaigns, right, to follow up with customers that have declined work. Hey, you declined repair on your air conditioner 6 months ago. Summer's coming up. Are you ready now? Just being able to reach back out to those customers to track their interactions. So we've got a tool set that'll do all that. But I think the thing that I love the most about that is the training aspect, right? Taking that information, those conversations like that you had with that shop, and saying, what could we have done better here?
right.
So
Well, and the other thing is, as a coach in the space, I like being able to look at other people's Octorocket dashboard or whatever we call it, and I can look on there.
yep.
I'm a big Ronald Reagan fan. Trust but verify. It's one
Sure.
more step. Like, I can look at TechMetric, I can look at Shopware, I can look at other stuff, but I can look at Octorocket and be like, okay, based on the conversation we're having, this is what's posted. This is where, it gives us a really quick look at kind of some things that are going. And then you guys have taken that even further now and have your little red, it's almost like a twinkly light up there that says,
Yeah.
here's all the ways you're screwing up. And then if you click on it, it tells you, hey, you need to keep an eye on this. And it gives you a little bit of information about that.
It's so, again, kind of back to our approach with technology, or artificial intelligence, right? It's the if your coach were here, what would he say or she
Right.
say, right? Like, what would Chris say, right? So
Right.
so it's a fuel gauge. We call it our fuel gauge, and then we point out fuel leaks, and it will show you things that need attention, and it's not to take the place of a coach, right? You have
Right.
to understand why those components are important, and, first of all, what you should be doing. But once you have that understanding, once you've worked with a coach, you use this to help you with your routine. It points you back to the things because there's a lot, right? There's a lot that you're supposed to be paying attention to. Okay, well, what matters the most this week?
Right. And then two, I love the daily and the weekly summary that gets emailed every day. Although sometimes I question the accuracy of it, because it seems like we're mountain time, and it almost seems like it goes out central, so it misses, like,
Yeah.
which just pisses me off, because I'm like, ooh, I know we did $1,000 more than that. And anyway,
We have this is the generation one of that. We have a morning version of that for those of you that are west of the Mississippi, I guess, might be, well, there's still Central Time, I guess, a little bit west of the Mississippi, but
yep.
get the morning report. And the reason I'm saying that is because if you've got a couple tickets left open for whatever reason, late pickups, you haven't closed out, the customer hasn't paid, they're not going to be in that report, like you said. So we have the option to, if you take the email report the next morning, it'll include everything.
Oh, okay.
As
So
long as somebody didn't leave something open that they shouldn't have.
right. Yeah. Well, my guys are pretty good about it. And the last thing I do is check every day. And I'm like, okay, this needs to be posted. This needs to be posted or whatever, just to make sure it gets done. Because again, a numbers nerd, I like to see stuff
Yeah.
completed and done and checked and everything like that. So again, that's one of those things that I told you that I'm not using it quite like I should, and I should probably get in trouble over. So I'm gonna have to go into the report, flip it to the morning report, and then be done with it. So anything else about the analytics side before we kind of move into digital concierge a little bit?
You know, you just said it, right? So you can't do all the things all the time.
Right.
It's an F1 car, right? Like there's a reason why there are only so many people skilled enough to drive those vehicles. And if my son's into F1, if you ever looked at their steering wheel, it gives you like anxiety just looking at all the buttons, right? So there's a lot, to use a cliche, there's a lot under the hood, right? So focus on a few things. It's just that. Pick what you want to get better at first and focus on those few things and grow slowly. Don't try to eat the whole elephant in one bite. Just do a few things. And all of us, myself included, like I will go look at shops that are just crushing it, and they will point out things, or we will, that, hey, did you know that there's a gap over here? So it can feel overwhelming, but just know that you can pace yourself. There's a lot to it. And I guess I should say, in correlation with your coach, right, which is always the first thing you need to consult, we do training. We do a couple training sessions a week. So if you want to learn to use some of these other features, that's all on our website, Octorocket.com, and you can just sign up for a training. It's just classroom training. We'll show you how to do it.
So one thing I would say is, like, some people are probably out there and they're like, oh, this is just one more thing I have to pay for or whatever like that. And I would say, as a coach, I have tools. I don't need it, but I love using it. I love the information it gives me. So therefore, it's a must do for me, I think.
It's interesting. So the coaches are the people that probably need it the least because they
Right.
already know it is built around the coaching principles.
Right.
And yet we have coaches that love it because those are the same people that do those things every day. My counter to that is, and I'm serious, but I'm joking. It's as close as you're going to get to printing money. It is as close as you're going to get to. This tool should find you the money to pay for all the things in the shop that you need, whether that's equipment, other products, software, marketing expenses. This is the tool that you use to help find the revenue to grow. And if you don't care about money, then we can just throw my Venmo up on screen at the end.
And just throw it to you. Yeah.
Right?
Just send you. Yeah. Um, I think people just have to be brave enough, right, to do the things that they know they need to do. And I've sent some kind of cheeky Facebook posts out here lately, about, like, here's the Think About It program, and it's a picture of the same guy before and after that didn't change at all because all he did was think about it. He didn't really do anything.
Right.
And so I would also tell you, because there's plenty of shops to go around, I don't have hesitation saying this. If you are too cheap or don't want to spend the money or whatever, however you classify that as, and you don't want to coach, outside of a peer group, I think this is the next best option. Like if you know you need help and you have money you want to spend on that, but don't know what to do and don't trust a coach or whatever for whatever reason, then I think you should at minimum do Octorocket and look for the leaks and do some other stuff like that and start there.
I am a huge fan of we all win, right? Like, so helping others and kind of growing the community. It's a community that I love.
Right.
I've always been a gearhead. I've always loved cars. I've loved anything that goes, right? That moves. It's art. I love engines. I love all the complexity. Back to the point here, if it helps preserve that and helps your audience and some of these shop owners, and it removes the risk. And there's an alarm company here. I'm in the Nashville area, and the guy would always it was a father-son company, and he would always go on the commercials and say, just don't tell my dad I told you this, right? So I guess I'm saying, don't tell the owners, but if you reach out to us and tell us that you heard this on the podcast, we'll let you try it for a month. We're not going to charge you for it. You'll see the benefit of it. I will stand behind that, right? So for your audience, if I can get the words out, if they want to try it and they're not sure, and it is an expense, I get it, right? And we know it's a good tool and the value's there. You guys just hit us up on our website and we'll let you take it for a test drive. That's the
I,
truth.
I'm coining this phrase right now. I've done a couple in the last several years of podcasting, but I'm going to say that Octorocket is going to be the gateway drug to coaching.
It
Because
kind of is. Yeah.
what's going to happen is you're going to get in there, you're going to look at the analytics, and you'll be like, oh, okay, I know what this is. I know what this is. You're going to turn 3 or 4 dials. You're going to make 4, 5, 6, 7,000 more dollars a month. And then you're like, okay, now I need somebody to push me across the finish line and whatever. So that's why I don't have a problem with it at all. So again, moving on to digital concierge. But this is what happens when you get two numbers people together, right? So
yeah, and you got editors that can make us sound good, look good.
yeah,
right?
Braxton will do a great job. So for our shop, we just signed up with Digital Concierge and got it running. I love the platform. I love the thought of it because I can answer the phone via the app anywhere in the United States. And because I travel a lot, if I want to catch some phone calls, if I want to log into the dashboard and listen to some phone calls and do some of those other things, I can. So that's why I got it. That's why I liked it. But I'll let you talk more about that and kind of the program.
Yeah, so same concept, but this time focused on the customer side, right? So our Octorocket originally was internal shop back office analytics. Brad started what was Digital Concierge. I think for his dad was a shop owner, former shop owner, retired. And back in the day, Brad came from a communications company, had the experience to put it all together. And I think there was a little bit of conversation back and forth with his dad of, hey, wouldn't it be great if kind of stuff, right? And eventually built it out. And there are elements of what we do that we are seeing other companies validate because they are now trying to step into that. But nobody really has the complete package that we have with all the knowledge of the analytics. And so we targeted that on the customer experience, right? That's what Brad did really well. Things like, okay, once we have the inspection done, once we have the estimate over or the quote over to the customer, what's happening from there? Or we did marketing. We paid for a bunch of mailers, right? What's the conversion rate on those calls? How many of them? Otherwise, you're literally putting money in a bottle with a note in it that if you find this, please bring it back to me, right? Like this is 2025. We have better tools. So one of the favorite things that our customers love about we call it customer engagement side now, which used to be Digital Concierge, is the analytics that we put on the calls. So we do an AI scoring. We call it the advisor IQ. It literally grades good, bad, neutral, positive, or negative, right? And so you can go right to the negative calls. What happened? I want to see a waveform of that call. If we look at this podcast, I can look at the waveform and I can see who was talking. We can do that on phone calls. We can, of course, transcribe them. And so you can use that as a teaching tool. One of the things that I love that we do is back to the marketing side. I can tell you based on how many phone calls that came in, how many of those converted. We can tell you if there are things that were, how many of those were first-time callers? What kind of vehicles, right? Are these people calling with? What are the things that they are saying? Are there consistent things that customers are calling and saying that we're hearing again and again and again? So we're using our tools to be able to analyze the calls and do that kind of stuff. I love that because as a numbers nerd, that helps me sort of focus on, well, what aren't we doing, right? So it's all things customer communication. Like you said, we do phones. That's just the beginning. It integrates with most of the major shop management softwares out there, TechMetric included, Protractor, Mitchell, RO Writer, Shopware, or the others. And you can use it's got all your customer CRM info. So you can tell how long has this customer been a customer? What's their total spend? what kind of you want to target Jeep owners this month? Okay, well, let's pull a campaign built at Jeep owners.
Right. I mean, I love it so far. And again, it does way more than what I'm using it for, but I got to learn more. So,
That's yeah, but that's the good thing, right? If you're using 20% of the tool and you're seeing a value there, imagine what happens when you grow and you use
right,
another 10%.
right. So, is there anything new that you can share with Octorocket, or anything that you want to tease or give me the scoop on, or let our listeners have the scoop on?
Man, so what's in the works that I'm allowed to talk about? Okay, we are always refining our software. Some of the let's see, some of the just things that I won't get fired for, Chris.
So
Okay,
this tells me there's stuff there that we need to talk about, or I need
yeah,
to dig deeper off recording. So that's perfect. That's fine.
yeah. There are some things coming. I will tell you that we are working right now. Our focus is on unifying both sides of the business to help with even more analysis of when that call comes in the front door, what's the entire life story, right? Did they schedule an appointment? What was that appointment for? Did they come back? What did they come back for? Are they declining work, and are we getting them back for that declined work? Those are some of the short term things. Yeah, I mean, there's some cool stuff coming that I can't. If I put it out there, right, then it's gonna be where there's a target on our back. But we're trying to.
Okay.
We are staying ahead in this space. We are like the leader in all things analytics in the shop.
Okay. So we'll everybody have to stay tuned. Now we just need to roll AutoFix into it, and we'll call it OctoFix or
Yeah, right.
Rocket Fix or something like that. We'll figure it out and then add the coaching to your stuff. So anyway, so any final thoughts, and then how can people reach out to you? And you already gave them a great offer. I'm not going to repeat it again. If you didn't hear it, you got to go back and listen.
There you go, man.
Yeah, final thoughts.
First of all, thanks for having me on. And I will say, probably the most important thing that I'm taking away from this. Now I might cry, but all of you, if you are thinking about betterment, if you are thinking about a change, this is your example, right? You have somebody that has shown you that it's possible and accomplishable. I would like to think of us in a small way as a tool set to help you with that change on a smaller scale, right? Especially as your repair shops go. So don't be discouraged. Happy to help you take those steps, small steps as they may be. And if you feel like it's time or you want to learn more, hit us up on our website. There's an inquiry form there. It's OKTOROCKET.com. Octorocket. So octopus, rocket, mashed together.
There you go.
Yeah. And we'll be around to help answer questions.
Awesome. So thank you so much Keith, for joining us today. This was really, really fun. I'm going to hit the stop recording button, and you can tell me all the stuff that you couldn't say, and then we can talk about the watches that we may or may not know anything about.
There you go.
Have a great day, everybody.